And we are live. Pixels and Plough, second episode, part of our weekly music discussion series between Reece Denton and me, Douglas Skene. We're going to be looking at musical magic this week. And what I mean by musical magic is those small little moments that just you really look forward to in a song that add that extra layer of drama that you might not get in some of your run-of-the-mill songs. So Reece and I have both picked 3 tracks we'd like to look at today. We'll go into some of the music theory behind them. And yeah, welcome to try and suggest other songs for us to look at in the future, and maybe we'll get some other guests in the future to look at their favorite musical magical moments. How you going, Reece? Say hello to everyone.
Hello, hello. We will preface that all of these magical moments that we're going to show you today, we're sort of playing right from when the magical moment hits, you know, just for copyright purposes and all of that. But if you do like what you hear, we definitely recommend checking out the songs in full so that you can get the full effect.
Yeah. We'll put some timestamps in the description for the video as well. We're doing this all with Hangouts on air, so it's not like we can add any overlays on the screen, at least while we're going live. So that'll probably be your best bet. And we'll try and find some links to the tracks as well, just to make it easier. But it would really suck if we make this video and it goes offline. So we'll try and avoid that.
Yeah, that's true.
Reece, maybe you want to start with your first example. Do you want to tell us what it is and maybe a little bit about it before we start playing it and why you think it's so magical?
Yeah, let's get into it. So my first example, it's a piece called Adagio for Strings in B flat minor. It's by Samuel Barber, and it's a very famous piece for strings. Originally for a quartet, but the specific example I'm going off of is for a full string ensemble. It's a very slow piece. All of the time signatures, they've got 2 in the denominator. So you've got a minim as your pulse, and it's very slow. Adagio, as the title implies. So it's very slow, very brooding. And the strings start off rather low in their strings as well, in their ranges. But this particular magic moment that I'm talking about, it's almost at the end, maybe 2 minutes out before it finishes. And all of the strings, even the cellos, they're right at the peak of their ranges. And so they're absolutely screaming. I'll play the moment for you now. And then it's just silence, yeah? So absolutely.
The thing that makes it though is the like the 6-minute lead up into it though, right? It's going to be this out of context magical moments.
Well, yeah.
Because I didn't think I'd heard this before, and you let me know about it last time after we met up, and I had to listen through it. And when it gets to this moment in the song, like I think it's that build up which just makes it that much more incredible.
Exactly. It's such a long build up, and it really builds to it, going from low in the range to very spaced out notes and harmonic rhythm as well.
You want to go a bit deeper on the musical nerd in this one, man? You know anything about like what key it's in and any of the voicings or anything like that?
Well, the piece is in B flat minor, and right when it gets to that peak, you actually land on a B flat minor chord. But the way that it's voiced, it's got the tonic in the soprano voicing. Then you got the 5th under that, the root again underneath that, and then the 5th again. So before you get to the cello, it's all just root and 5th, yeah, and pretty spaced apart. It's just in the cello line that you have that 3rd, and so even though you've resolved, you're in first inversion, so it doesn't feel completely at rest. And then keeping that melody note on top, the tonic, it actually moves to the 6th chord in minor. So in this case, it goes from B flat minor to G flat. So there's a bit of movement there, but otherwise, there's a lot of notes in common between those two chords. You're getting some movement, but it does feel like it's staying in place until it gets to this next chord, which is sort of like an E flat minor, but with a flat 6, which is quite nice. So I'll play the lead up to that chord. And so you've got now a minor 2nd in there, which is quite jarring, especially being up so high again. And then that finally resolves to an E chord, which is a very bright sound compared to the B flat minor that you start off in right at the start of the piece, and for that particular moment as well. It's technically an F flat chord if you go by the note, but
spare us that shit.
Yeah.
No, some of those enharmonics just they give me the creeps, even though they are correct.
Yeah.
And the F flats and C flats or B sharps, that kind of stuff. The B sharps.
B sharps. I will tell you too, it was a bit of a headache working that out for to play it on the keyboard, because again, all of those enharmonics, but also all of the voices being so high up, it's just ledger lines galore.
Yeah, ledger lines galore, but it's a double-edged sword. Like you were talking about, it's quite abrasive hearing the minor seconds up there, but you really need to get up into the upper registers to really make those minor second intervals work, right? Like imagine if I've got a piano sound laid up here, and imagine if, what notes were the minor second intervals between before that you played?
It's a B flat and a C flat.
yeah, C flat. So B flat and C flat together, like in all the octaves, right? You can hear how minor seconds work together up high, right? It's clashy, but it sort of works right there. Well, I'll progressively go down octaves.
Yeah.
Still functional there if you had inner voice in. Let's go down again. Works in that octave as well. And then as we start to get below there, it becomes kind of getting to mud territory. Still not too bad there.
Yeah.
And then we're in the shit tier zone.
Yeah, I know where you're getting at, and he kind of gets away with this voicing here because it's so high up. There's less harmonics in those notes right up there, but going into those lower octaves, that's where you're getting more information, more chances for just absolute shit tier.
Yeah. Well, even when you're up there, like losing maybe some of the upper harmonics on the sound, the fundamentals starting so high up there that even with a couple of harmonics, it's pretty piercing. But I think that piercing timbre is actually what makes that section work so well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I have actually got for my first example a string one as well. I'll try and get to it just before the magic happens again, but we don't want to get this taken down. So I will give this a spin. Okay, I'm a bit ahead there. So this actually is a bit of a segue on from last week, speaking about Eric Whitacre and his glorious choral arrangements. But one of my favorite pieces is actually Water Night, but arranged for strings. And I think it was done by Eric, this version. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong with that.
Yeah.
But the piece is in B minor, and it's using just more of that standard B minor voicings with occasional Dorian voicing in there. So lots of major seconds apart, a lot of close voicings like that. With the occasional
yeah, pretty good.
He uses a few of those like major 4 chords in minor to give the Dorian sound, but the part I'm talking about occurs around 2 minutes 30 into the piece. It's similar to the Barber piece you were talking about, where it's quite soft for a lot of the piece until it picks up the dynamic here. And the voicing is actually quite different to the way the choral arrangement's done for this song. It seems to employ like a lot of double stops across all the different string instruments to get as many layers as he can in there.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
From me listening to it, I can pick out and with the aid of some scores as well, I can hear about 14 separate lines, but I'm sure there's some doubling on it.
Yeah.
The score here, I don't really agree with some of the voicings. I'm going to bring it up on screen for you guys to hear. But it's going from B minor, playing like quite a majestic melody, and it lands on a really, really strong G Lydian sound. So it's like a G major 13 with a humongous stacked voicing there. So I'll play the example, and then I'll at least break it down what's happening voicing wise, at least to what I can hear, because it kind of gets a bit mushy to pull apart.
Yeah.
So here's the example. So just that moment where it just goes to like a billion notes together.
Yeah.
It's one of the most beautiful moments I think I've heard in music. I'll play it again quickly. So the way this score is written, saying the top voicing is playing we got up to A on the top voicing. Now I agree with that. I thought I was looking at another piece of music before where the B is in the top voicing, but I think he may have left out some parts in the lower registers there. But the way I'm hearing it stacked from top to bottom, or from bottom to top. G on the bass, so that would make sense with the G major 13 voicing. And I'm hearing G, D, A, B, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, A in the voicing there. So it's quite a stack.
Fat stack.
Let's put it together. That's the notes I just read out then. I think I'll play the example one more time. You hear it sounds something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, the lack of 14 fingers is not too good, but it's the notes.
Yeah, I'll hedge you on it.
E, D, A, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A. It's pretty much as thick as a major 13 voice as you can get to have that beautiful A on the top. I think it's just one of the most perfectly constructed voicings, and whenever I hear that, it's pretty much a goosebump moment for me. Have you heard this one before?
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorites, and it's kind of appropriate too. I guess if you think of the piece, it's called Water Night, and when you get to that moment, it's just like a pool of harmony at that point, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
For the pun lover in you must be really taking some delight in that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure if you listen to the choir version, I'm sure the lyrics in the text there, it's probably a moment of word painting, really. If we were to look at it,
pretty good at doing that, isn't he?
Yeah.
A lot of moments.
I know there's another point in that piece actually where the singers sing the word lead, and the bass voice goes to what has got to be the lowest note in that entire piece, just for the word lead.
Because lead is heavy.
Exactly.
It's heavy. Yeah. Just to build the bridge for people that might not include onto that. Yeah, well, I think people should give this a full listen, as with all of the recommendations we're giving today.
For sure.
Well, let's move on to your next example, man.
All right. My next one is a more recent example. It's Adam Neely's cover of Clarity by Zed. And I think we know what part's coming up if you've heard it. It's that glorious polychord, which is an E and F sharp triad over a D. Let's listen to it. You want a piece of me.
There's a couple of them in a row.
Yeah. I haven't looked into those, admittedly, but that's the one that everyone went crazy over, to the point where in the next video that he did after that, it was a Q&A, and everyone was like, "Oh, what's that tasty jazz voicing? What's happening at 211, etc., etc."
Sweet jazz.
Jazz, yeah. So, like I said just before I played the example, it's a chord built on a D bass, which is already a bit funky because the piece starts out in F minor. Normally in the key of F minor, you'd have a D flat, yeah? But instead we have a D natural in the bass. Then on top of that is an E triad, which is already a bit funky because that G sharp in the E is already like it's like a tritone. Yeah. And then on top of that, you've got an F sharp as well.
Higher octave, okay. So is it just you're playing just triads there for those ones?
Yeah. So
over D, okay.
The E is in first inversion, and then the F sharp is in second inversion. Oh, sorry, that E is in root, actually.
E's in root, okay.
Yeah.
And the F sharp is in second inversion?
Yes.
Okay. And the other chord was that moving down a major second to me. I don't know. It sounded like that chord planing jazz style where you just get the disgustingly nice voicing that's moved down.
Yeah, some sort of parallel movement is definitely going. Yeah. And it sounds crazy. Like, how could that ever be used? But if you listen to it, the singer is actually singing that top note, I guess the A sharp of the F sharp triad. That's the melody note. Because you are the piece of me.
Yes. That really is some sweet jazz.
That's as jazz as it gets. And it's just very crunchy. Again, the bass note is already out of F minor territory. Actually, F sharp is very much out of F minor territory. It's all out there, but it works because of the setup, the fact that the top voicing is the melody note, and then he's doing
the familiar melody of the vocals is what kind of gives you your context, right?
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's
anything underneath,
and yeah, the melody is very diatonic too. Yeah.
How do you conceptualize, like, when you're hearing the polychord stack like that, right? E and F sharp over each other and then over D. Are you hearing it as being like mainly part of one key with extra flavor added in from another key, or do you just see it as being a completely different entity when you're stacking the polychords like that?
In this case, it definitely feels like it's different keys. And actually, I think he mentioned something about that in his Q&A video, how the different ensembles are actually playing in different keys. Like, he says that the strings, it might be, are playing the E triad, whereas the horns have the F sharp triad. It's broken up like that somehow.
You said it's D, E, and F sharp, right?
Yes.
So, like, when I normally think of that, right, when I think of something on D, like D on D, for example, it's like that standard D major. When I've got E over D, I think of it as being like a Lydian voicing, as you would imagine in key of C, right? Like F and G together. You're playing like G major over F. In this key, E over D, right? And then when you put the F sharp chord there, I hear that as the Lydian augmented sound. So that whole polychord there to me almost sounds like something from Lydian augmented. It's not the most disgusting combo of polychord you hear, right? So that easily could be like something from D Lydian augmented to me.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Together, it's a very standard jazz sound. It's like, it goes hand in hand with when you hear like minor major sevens and all that, but that one kind of makes sense as a polychord. I kind of seeing it as being borrowing from that key. Whereas some other ones, like some other polychord moments, and I'm sure you and I'd like to just have the discussion on air about it. Sometimes it just makes no sense to me. But other times, like, I guess trying to find a good polychord, right? Most times people are going to stick with tried and tested structures like triads, right? So you're going to try and start stacking major triads together. And a lot of triad pairs, which is a skill I guess people use for doing improvisation, they belong just to the standard modes you're playing in.
Yeah.
So it's hard to find one where it's just completely not a standard kind of approach. So just as a quick thing, maybe like when you play like C and C sharp together. That's one where I can't really think of it being a part of too many scales.
No, that's right, because you've got a lot of chromaticism at that point.
Yeah. But it's kind of hard to find those examples. Maybe like when you're playing like two major triads, tritone apart. That's a pretty.
You can usually find that somewhere.
I'm pretty sure that's somewhere. I'm pretty sure that's in one of the diminished scales.
Yeah,
it's hard to find one. What do you reckon? Like, that's a pretty big transformation from the original song, though, right? The Adam Neely version of that song.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I think that the reason why his one works, like obviously he's a very adept, educated guy.
Yeah.
Knows his music, knows what kind of sounds good as well. But I think the fact that that original song has actually got such a good hook to it makes it really, really work.
I already really loved the original version of that song.
Same.
And then when he just tasted it up with all of that jazz spice, you know.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That was your second example, right? My other ones are a little bit less, I guess, less in the orchestral or choral world. I've tried to go for a bit of a popular kind of music example.
Yeah.
This is like not really even that complicated compared to some other examples, but I've picked the track from Peebo Bryson, "Can You Stop the Rain?" There's a moment that happens after the chorus. It's a pretty standard, I guess, late 80s, early 90s R&B track for the most part. Lots of beautiful voicings all throughout it. And it mainly is in, I guess you could say, G flat major and E flat minor. There's some quite pronounced differences between the relative major and relative minor where you really feel like you're sitting in one of the keys. So you hear a lot of stuff in F sharp. You hear a lot of sections like that where you really feel like you're in that G flat major or F sharp major sound. But then the most verse, it's a lot of stuff which is actually very E flat minor in the song as well, where you feel like you're really set into that rather than it being ambiguous. But there's a moment after quite standard chords in the chorus. I'll just play it for you guys. Once again, if you're looking for where this is in the original song, it's at about 1 minute 35. You'll get the best intro for this happening. It's at the end of I think all the choruses in the song. Have a listen. Morning, I can face another day. Baby, can you stop? Can you stop the rain? I reckon that's pretty tasty. That's a pretty simple move in a way. Like they could have not chucked that chord in. They could have just gone to let it finish where it did and just skipped that and came back into the G flat major section.
Well, because you hear that setup and then it's just complete silence. And in that break where you're hearing nothing, you're expecting a diatonic chord to follow.
Exactly.
But then you don't.
You don't. Yeah, exactly. So. What's pretty much happening? The melody before it gets there is on E flat, E flat, D flat, C flat. Okay, it's pretty much following that part there, and you'd expect it to either go back into the E flat minor sound from before, or maybe you'd expect it to go back to the G flat major part.
Yeah, I think personally that's what I was expecting.
Expecting that. Well, that's what it does eventually go back into. So what we're actually getting though, we're getting a chord on D flat instead, and so we're on D flat, and the voicing goes like this at the top hand: C flat, D, and A flat, or B D G sharp, just for people who want to jump at it quickly. over D flat. It's a pretty simple example. It's just an altered dominant chord, right?
Yeah.
It's on the fifth degree of the major scale. A lot of times you're hearing those the altered dominant chords on the fifth degree of a minor scale. So you would expect to hear it sometimes like over the B flat instead. You might hear like instead of you might hear something like. Might hear something going from a B flat altered dominant to the E flat, but this is actually going from D flat to G flat. And saying altered dominant, I'm just thinking of it as being a 7 chord where you've got a flat 9, sharp 9, flat 5 or sharp 5 in there, but it's actually got the regular fifth in the chord and just a flat 9, so it's a little bit different. So normally when I'm seeing these altered chords, where it's got the regular fifth, I'm thinking of it as more coming from the dominant diminished scale instead, like the half whole diminished scale built from the fifth degree of the scale. So in D flat it'd be something like this, and all the chord notes of that chord are in there. Yeah, it's within there. So that's probably why I've noticed a tendency in the pop music, if it's going to be the fifth chord of the major key, you're much more likely to see the regular fifth kept in the chord. This is the altered scale is used usually as the fifth degree of the minor key. But I think Peebo is completely underrated as well as a singer. People might have heard his songs before.
Yeah, I hadn't really heard of him until you mentioned we were going to use this example the other day. And then when I checked it out, I was like, I got to get on this.
Yeah. Well, the thing he's probably most well known for is singing some Disney songs back in the day. Like he did a Whole New World, the version that was actually released with proper singing, like not the young musical theater singers who played the roles of Aladdin and Jasmine. And he also did a version of Beauty and the Beast with Celine Dion.
Oh, wow.
Pretty famous for doing that. And he's just pure baritone on it, man. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move into your third one, man, if you want.
Yeah, all right. My last example is from Jacob Collier. It's the last song on his album, In My Room, Don't You Know? And I will preface this moment. The piece, it starts off, it's just a fourth. You're in the key of E flat. So you got the E flat there, and then the B flat underneath. And he's just going on that. But then eventually he goes to like a Lydian sort of thing. Yeah.
I love that piece, man.
Yeah. But so basically you're starting out from about as basic as you can get with harmony, and as it goes through the piece, it sort of opens up with more and more harmonic information until after this long-winded improvised section, you get to this lift where it actually goes up to, I guess it would be E. So you've gone up a semitone, but he actually lands on the relative minor, so the C sharp, as a minor 11 chord. It's rather warm. It's at 528. Here it is. Oh, the universe aglow. It's a really, really nice moment because it builds up, and the instruments are slowly getting louder and louder, and then all the instruments cut out, and it's just a choir of Jacob over this lovely minor 11 voicing. I worked it out here. And the world, So in my left hand,
is it like a E add 9 over C sharp? Is that what it is?
Essentially, yeah. In my left hand, I've got C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and then in my right hand, E, F sharp, B, and that B, the seventh, that's the melody note. And the world.
Nice.
Yeah. And that wow moment keeps hitting, because after that, you heard at the end of the example, you know, it goes into this flurry of percussion, which is absolutely full. He even accentuates it in his live one-man show, where the percussion is actually like electronically affected, and so it sounds really crazy. And then when he returns to those chords again for the next phrase of the melody, he brings in the bass, and it's very, very rich in tones. And it just keeps going from there with some like voices in the middle. There's one part where I think it's one of the tenor lines. It goes just E, D sharp, C sharp, you know, just going down the scale. Very, very straightforward. But in that context, it sounds so nice, especially with that open, you know, full voice sound as well.
Is it over the same chord?
No. There's other chords that come after that. It's like an E major 13 and then some other shit.
Jacob, bring your one-man show to Australia. You'll at least have 2 people that can be there.
That's right, yeah.
You can sustain your career on 2 people. Well, it's awesome, man. I've got a lot of love for Jacob at the moment, right? He's incredible and talented bastard, seems to do everything.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got my third example here. It's probably from one of my favorite bands here, man. I don't know how much you've got into them before. Probably have, from like all of us, seen them doing their covers of pop songs, and they just do some really advanced reharmonizations, but they kind of keep it modern and poppy as well. And that's Dirty Loops I'm talking about. Who else other than Dirty Loops?
Dirty Loops, very nice.
This is probably from one of the more underappreciated songs. I don't see people talking about it so much, but it's from Crash and Burn Delight. It's a song mainly in C minor, but and it's nearly all just the Rhodes or electric piano kind of part with Jonah singing, and builds into E minor later on. Pretty standard kind of chord progressions, but just really, really beautiful melodies. Amazing vocal performances here. There's a part where it goes to quite a great lift in the song from E minor, and it does a key change, which is just incredible. It moves from E minor into G sharp minor, and
oh wow,
quite common. So it's like 4 keys moving sharp wise. It's a big jump.
Yeah.
But the way they do it actually is really clever. I'll explain maybe the theory about it beforehand, and then you'll have a listen to it. So we've all would have heard, even like in like hard rock and metal genres, right? Something in E minor, very common chord progression, like E minor, B minor, C, something like that, D, right?
Yep.
How many times do we have to hear Iron Maiden do that again? But anyway, that chord progression, it's doing something of a variation on that. E minor, B, maybe like C major 7. And then it goes to the borrowed chord from harmonic major, B major, right? We've heard that a billion times too, right?
Oh,
And it seems to, whenever we hear that, you usually hear the melody note going from that E flat, or sorry, D sharp going to E. That's what you normally hear in the melody do. But what it does, it uses that B, which is the major 5 chord in E minor, and it goes into G sharp minor. So it's actually the first of the third major of that key, right? It's in G sharp minor, same as playing B, right? So you get that kind of E minor to that change there. It's quite a natural change. You're just going from the third to the first of the key, but the way they do it here is amazing. And when you hear the basic structure of it there, but now hear how they do it with the vocals and everything, it's incredible. I'll play it for you guys. Oh, I've got a really short example there. I reckon we'll push this a little bit. I'll try and get a bit more of a longer example there because you really need to hear the context of this one. Let's go to push.
Yeah, that's very nice.
That's tasty. I don't really hear people do it. I haven't heard that modulation too many times. I mean, sure, there's an exception. It's probably done a lot, but it's amazing.
What did you say those two chords were?
Go for it, man. Sorry.
What were those two chords again?
So it's like it's in like it's like C major 7 and then goes to B major to get to the new key.
Uh-huh.
Goes like here there into G sharp minor. It's a pretty clever way of doing it. It's pretty much using the same vocal melody earlier on to what it does earlier on, but it doesn't actually do the modulation earlier on.
Yeah.
And I think because you got that familiarity there in the melody, it just really makes it cook. These guys are like honestly geniuses of doing this reharmonization. I don't know if they start off with really basic chords and then get a nice melody and do the reharmonization, or they're just probably thinking this way now. But they have the most amazing chord changes, and it does not sound forced. It just sounds so masterful.
Very smooth, yeah.
I don't know what's happened, why they haven't released any more music. Their last album, I think, must have come out in like 2013 or something now. It's been ages
since I've heard anything from them, yeah.
And it was a brilliant album. It was my album of the year when it came out.
Yeah.
The three guys in the band are just machines. So just check out that Loopified album, especially that track there. It's really good.
Yeah.
I heard that Hit Me song. That was the first one I heard of an original from them, and that just absolutely sucked me in. That's a brilliant track.
I also really love. Have you heard their version of the Samsung theme?
Oh, so nice, man.
So nice.
Not to mention Jacob again, but he did a pretty good version too.
Oh yeah, him too. Yeah.
We should do like a deconstruction on that Jacob Samsung one. If you can find it in your Apple loving bones to give it a go.
I do love Apple, but yeah. And then we can spaghetti together our own version.
Oh, okay. It's something of a challenge. Ooh. Samsung. Pixels and Plough 2020.
Over the horizon.
Horizon, though, sounds like a song name for a power metal track I would have written back in like 2004.
Sonata Arctica.
Hey, don't talk shit about Sonata.
I love Sonata Arctica, but you know they would have had a song called that.
I think they probably do. Coming to me. I don't think it was on one of the good albums.
Yeah.
Man, I reckon we've done a pretty good job today. That's a pretty long chat. I'm hoping that some of you have managed to stick around for the whole conversation.
Thank you if you did.
Yeah, thanks for checking out Pixels and Plough version 2. I'm hoping that my audio hasn't been dropping out as much this week, and I'm hoping that webcam picture's been a bit clearer.
Yeah, not so much this time. Your audio was definitely intact a bit more.
So I've banned the wife from using YouTube while I'm doing this because no one wants to see me moving my mouth Kung Pao style and nothing coming out again. Thank you, everyone. Well, we'll probably be back, I guess, another week. We've got a lot of topics to go through. If you've got any suggestions or stuff you want us to have a go at there, we're more than happy if there's any listeners that want us to check it out. So thank you from Plough.
Thank you from Pixels.
See ya.
See ya.